Hello folks, I'm here today with the Subaru Outback Touring. This is a 2.5 litre boxer engined CVT equipped four-wheel drive SUV crossover estate car. I think it's a high riding estate car, so that's what I'm going to call it. These start at a shade under £36,000. This one's actually £41,500. It's got 169 PS of power, a 0 to 62 time of 10.2 seconds and 252 Newton meters of torque. You'll be pleased to know that the Outback's available in several different colour options. This metallic green seems to be the perfect blend of army surplus and baby's nappy. Perhaps not one for me, but to each his own. I'm sure the caravanners and farmers amongst you will be delighted to see a tow bar fixed to the back of the car, and it's got a brake towing capacity of 2 tons. So as you may have noticed, the car comes with these very sturdy looking roof rails, and I've got good news for you. If you regularly use a roof rack or a roof box or anything, you'll be used to getting a step ladder out and getting all sorts of tools to actually attach something here so you can use these rails. On this one, it's a bit different. There's a very simple little mechanism, and you do that. Unclip it, move it over, and clip it in the other side. Easy. So the boot space here is 561 litres, but it feels massive. It feels much bigger than that, largely thanks to this very wide square opening, which is a dream to get things in and out of. And the other thing I should mention is that Subaru, unlike many car manufacturers, don't include the space under the boot floor in those official boot space figures. With the seats down, you've got a massive 1750 litres of space, and thanks to the fairly high roof line throughout, although this one does lose a bit because of the sunroof, it really becomes a bit of a van. Also got this handy little storage area here and a 12-volt charging socket. So the rear passenger space in this car is definitely a good news story. In this model, we've got these lovely leather seats, big seat pockets at the back of the driver and passenger seats. We've got 2 USB-A's down there, and we've got heated seats in the back in this particular car. Now, not only are these seats nice and comfortable, but you can also adjust the backrest, so you can be laying back here reclining, or bring them more upright if you prefer to travel that way. Very flexible, very comfortable. In the middle here, we've got a nice big centre armrest with 2 cup holders. It's really quite a nice place to be. And just look at this leg room. That driver's seat's in my normal position. I'm 5'9" and a bit, and there's about 8 inches maybe of leg room there. Loads of space to put your feet. In the middle as well, you could actually travel in the middle seat in the back here. It's not a full seat, it's probably 2/3 of a seat width, and there is a bit of a transmission tunnel, but otherwise you could do a reasonably long journey in that middle seat, and you could do it in comfort. So into the front cabin, and the first thing you notice is how roomy and spacious it really feels, and that really is true of the whole cabin in this car from front to back. It's just very spacious. Very nice quality leather seats that are nice and adjustable. You've also got a decent lumbar support built in. Steering wheel's a lovely thing, really nice quality leather. Lots of buttons. They don't feel like the most expensive things in the world, but they feel like they'll still work in about 30 years. You've also got a couple of little rocker switches there for your cruise control and for your volume for your stereo. Onto the infotainment screen, I mean, it's a huge piece of real estate, and it's really quite intuitively set out. The icons and things they've used perhaps look a little bit dated in 2023. But as usual, most of the time in practice, I've got my phone plugged in. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so no issues there. Physical buttons for the temperature control and the aircon, and then the other air controls are just on this screen here, all work perfectly well. We've got an electronic parking brake and a button for the various cameras on this car, and obviously a fairly traditional looking gear shifter. Big double cup holder there, bit wide and deep this. I don't know if this is made for the American market, but you could get something very large in there, but it might swallow up sort of a can of Coke. This is a 2-tiered little cubby here, so we've got one little hard tray where you could just keep a few small items, and then press the other side and it opens up the full cubby. And we've also got a glove box down here that, as with most modern cars, is not really very big. I should also mention a little storage shelf just here at the front, which could be quite handy. Material wise, they all feel rather built for purpose rather than for comfort perhaps, so they don't feel sort of too luxurious, but in the same respect, in no way does anything in here feel cheap. This feels like a very solid, ruggedly built car that will age very well indeed. So let's start by talking about the on-road performance of this car, and you have to say it's very capable but lacks a bit of fun. The CVT gearbox is a CVT gearbox. Lots has been spoken about them in the past. They're just not the most exciting things to drive. They're a little bit frustrating at times, but guess what? They're quite reliable and reasonably economical. And of course, the many Japanese car makers that people bleat on about producing ultimately reliable cars pretty much all use CVT gearboxes, and I guess there's a reason for that. Now, the 2.5 litre boxer engine is a bit lacking in power. It's a little bit uninspiring. It could have done with a bit more power, particularly with the permanent four-wheel drive. I think something around about 200 brake horsepower would certainly have suited it more. In the same respect, it does everything you want it to. You couldn't really ever say that the car's gutless. It's just that for a car that's over £40,000, the one I'm sitting in, I expect it to have a little bit more oomph. While I'm crawling in some traffic here, I'm going to show you a safety feature of this car, which, can you hear it beeping? I don't know if you can, but that's telling me to keep my eyes on the road because I've been staring at the camera. For those of you that are very easily distracted, that will either become a great feature that saves your life or an almost immediate annoyance. Now, although this car might be lacking a tiny bit of fun on the road, it's when you get it off-road that you really understand that Subaru has absolutely played to its strengths, because off-road, it's a monster, it's a beast of a car, and it puts most SUVs to shame, to absolute shame. It really does. It can handle just about anything you throw at it. I must admit, I haven't had the chance to take it on really serious off-road duty, but just doing some mild off-roading and taking it down some of the bumpiest and most unmade roads I can find in the area, it's just eaten up absolutely everything. It's got different modes for ice, for mud, for everything else, and they just all work brilliantly. This permanent all-wheel drive system is an absolute triumph. And do you know what else it's got going for it over a lot of SUVs? Well, because it's not really an SUV, it's a big estate car that rides high. What it means is you've got that nice high up driving position that so many SUV owners covet, but you've also still got quite a low-sided vehicle. So it doesn't really have any body roll in the corners. I think most people will be massively surprised by just how little body roll there is. And that, combined with the nicely weighted steering, is going to give quite a lot of people something to think about. So as with all my car reviews, I always like to sum them up by telling you how I feel about the car going back. And I'm going to miss this one. I've really enjoyed my time with it. To be fair, I didn't really have too many preconceptions coming into it because it's so many years since I've been in a Subaru. Last one of those was an Impreza WRX, and you know, it was back in the day. I have to say, I'd love to see a WRX version of this, a nice spicy version of the Outback to really take on some of those German Chelsea tractors. It's a lovely car, it really is. It certainly could be better. A little bit more oomph and a little bit of a more interesting gearbox would improve things greatly. But really, if you spend your weekends towing a caravan or mucking out the horses, or you live somewhere in the country and you know, you're a bit more susceptible to some of the bad weather conditions, and you're looking for a practical, reliable, kind of well-equipped hack, then this thing's great. So just to summarise, let's look at the good points for this car. It's got well-weighted steering, very little body roll, amazing traction on any kind of surface. It's a relaxing cruiser. It's actually a more compelling car in a lot of ways than many SUVs that we all seem to covet these days. It's got great cabin space, it's well equipped, it's hugely practical, and it cruises nicely. The only things really you can say about it that we don't really like would be the fact that it's really not very economical. The MPG figures are not quite good enough. Although you can get 38 on a run with it, around town you're going to be looking at about 30, and for something with a 0 to 62 time of just over 10 seconds and only 169 PS of power that doesn't have the most engaging driving experience, that seems a touch thirsty by modern standards. Folks, please give this video a thumbs up. It makes a difference to those algorithm thingies. And if you're interested in leasing Subaru Outback, please click on the link to lease loco in the video description and pin as a top comment, as it helps support the channel. Please also subscribe if you haven't already done so. I need more subscribers. You'd like to subscribe, wouldn't you? I know you would. And please go and share this far and wide on your owners forums and your Facebook groups and everywhere else you can. Thanks ever so much for watching, folks. I'll see you in the next one.